Next Gen fam, what is going on? Tuning in, currently recording this podcast live on Wednesday afternoon. Hope you all are having fun tuning in. Thanks so much for joining us. DG, what's popping, my man?
Everybody, we have a treat for you today. Someone who is going to blow your mind with the tips you need as a founder. But before we dive in, I got to give two quick shout outs, Jay. You ready? Number one, Natasha on the Next Gen HQ team who made this possible. Natasha. She's out there in Seattle, Long Island, New York City, also includes Brooklyn. It's all out here. Thank you, Natasha. Number two, Nick Jones. Welcome to the Next Gen HQ team. It's your first day out here. We appreciate you. We're happy to have you on.
Next Gen fam, if you know a little bit about what's going on, Dylan and I are out here working always. And so many entrepreneurs are coming to us to raise money, looking to talk to VCs. We have raised money. We're always, if you're an entrepreneur, you're always raising money. And we have an investment syndication organization that we do. We're investing in startups. So we wanted to get the truth to y'all about actually what's going on behind the curtain when you're talking to VCs. So I am so fired up for this episode. Are we ready, Dylan? Should we bring this guy on or what?
Yep, we're ready. Okay, we're ready. Let's do it, Jay.
Y'all, I am so fired up to bring on an entrepreneur. He's a VC, a mentor, board member, incredible experiences across a wide variety of industries. Bill Reichert, a partner at Pegasus Tech Ventures and the co-founder and managing director of Garage Technology Ventures. Bill, welcome to the Next Gen Momentum Audio stage. What's going on?
Thank you, guys. Love the energy. Delighted to be here with you.
We are so honored to have you, Bill. We're going to dive right in, right? There's some news going on in the world. So I got a question for you. Everyone's asking, you're one of the first people who was evaluating the Tesla investment years ago, before Elon. And then this week, Bill, we see Elon moves $1 billion into Bitcoin. So I want to hear from you. Is this here to stay? Are we going to see startups moving their budgets to Bitcoin? What's going on?
You are not going to see a lot of VCs encouraging their entrepreneurs to dump all of the proceeds into Bitcoin. So don't hold your breath on that one. You know, obviously Bitcoin is here to stay, but it'll be, we'll see what it really is here to do over some period of time. It's not going to replace the dollar. It's not going to replace international currencies. But it's going to have a role, so we'll see how it goes.
Next Gen fam, we're going to be waiting and seeing. Bill, we had a great episode with Tim Draper last week, who I know that you know well, and we got to get both of y'all on here. Next Gen,
yes, no, that would be great.
Have you going back? Bill, take us back a little bit. You went through, you had well educated and had a lot of early experiences. What are some of those early experiences that most shined for you the light that you knew investing was the route that you most wanted to go?
So. Such that I knew well. So I'll, part of it had to do with the fact that as a serial entrepreneur, I kept on starting, new companies. And the first time I was long ago and far away, I was a grad student at Stanford, and I started a software company. We were the first app developers for the PC, and we got, so that dates me. And so we got all sorts of investors coming in, and Charles Schwab came in, and Dow Jones came in, and one day the whole thing just exploded and crashed and burned, which is a longer story. But so the great thing, back then I'm in my 20s, and Silicon Valley, the deal is you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, you spin the story a little bit, and then you go do it again. So, I went and I did it again. And this time it was actually a restart. I didn't start the company, but the company was crashing and burning. And so the board said, let's bring in somebody who knows something about companies that crash and burn. Okay. So I went in with a buddy and, to restart this company. And it was a company called The Learning Company. And we took it public. And it became the largest educational software company in the United States until Mattel bought it for $3.6 billion and then proceeded to demolish the company. But that's okay. By then I was out. And then I did it again. I joined a team out of SRI, Stanford Research Institute, that developed this unbelievably cool technology. You would not imagine how cool this technology is. So what they figured out was how to create a computer that had no keyboard. It was just a piece of glass. And you interacted with the computer by touching the glass. And it was so cool. And, so I joined these guys and we took this company. And we had Bill Gates came in and he looked at what we were doing, and Sequoia and all these, and they looked at what we were doing, and we took this company and we ran it into a brick wall at 500 miles an hour. Boom. So, okay. So this, by the way, this tablet computer we invented, in any case, it was a little bit early. About, 20 years later, Apple released the iPad. 20 years later, Apple released the iPad. So it was early by about 20 years. Okay. So you learn a little bit of humility, right? A little bit of humility. I went back and did it again and went through. It was a very, very tough experience, but we managed to merge the company with a sister company and take it public. And I went, whew. Okay, let's try something else. And that's when I got together with Guy Kawasaki and a few other people, and we started Garage Technology Ventures. And so the big idea was Guy and I are both sort of at heart, we're both educators. I mean, sort of at heart, what we like to do is share with other people. And so we thought, okay, let's create a venture capital firm that is the first venture capital firm designed for the benefit of entrepreneurs. So we thought that was a radical idea, right? So our idea was, look, we're going to be the most open, outreach-oriented venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. We're going to reach around the world. And so we opened offices in Boston. We opened an office in Seattle, and we found this lady named Natasha, and we hired Natasha, and she was out frickin' standing, and then we opened an office in Tel Aviv, and we opened an office in London. And our big idea was to go around the world and help entrepreneurs be successful through programs and workshops and conferences and books. And so that was the radical idea. Our other mantra, which we didn't actually use on our website, but our other mantra was, we take the FU out of funding. That was, we thought that was fun. So that was, so that's what got me over on the venture side, was after all of the blows and scars and successes I had as an entrepreneur, I thought, boy, how do I scale this? How do I scale this? Instead of doing one startup at a time, I could do, 30 at a time. And so that's the dirty little secret about why entrepreneurs become VCs. So
unbelievable, Bill.
Yeah.
Our audience is loving this. The energy's off the charts.
Okay.
Bill just told you the story of an entrepreneur. It's a roller coaster right here. One day you're going public for $3 billion, and then you crash and burn into a wall with the iPad 20 years in advance. Unbelievable, Bill. I want to take you back, though, because something that is so clear from knowing a bit about your story and hearing you walk it through, you're focusing, when it comes to innovation, on opportunities, right, versus maybe solving a problem. This is something you've talked about, you've written about. Give us to the audience, for young entrepreneurs out there who maybe are chasing problems to solve. How do you view that when it comes to innovating?
Yeah. So you're referring to a blog I wrote about how the venture community keeps on talking about the whole point of a startup company is to solve a problem. And if you approach the world that way, you're narrowing dramatically the range of possibilities for innovation. So, sort of a good example is Facebook. What problem did Facebook solve? Right? It would, take another good example, Google. What problem did Google solve? There were plenty of other search engines. Facebook, there were plenty of other social networking sites, right? So so much of a lot of the most successful companies are successful not because they are sort of, let's find a problem to solve. They're successful because they're exploiting an opportunity. So what was the opportunity that Facebook exploited? The opportunity that Facebook exploited was that the other social network sites were not sufficiently authentic. So like MySpace, you didn't really know who was there. You couldn't really be sure. What Facebook did was they said, look, we're going to make sure that the people who are there with you are authentic. So first, you got to have a .edu in your, as an email. You got to have a .edu. It's hard to fake a .edu. So we're going to make sure from day one that the people you come across on Facebook are authentically real people. And so, that's what made it so spectacular at the beginning. And then what they did is that they said, now we got this platform and people, well, let's add this, let's add this, let's add this. They weren't solving problems. They were exploiting opportunities based upon, what they saw as an opportunity out there. So that's a reframing that I suggest to entrepreneurs, because if you just poke around looking for problems, it's going to narrow kind of your frame of reference. So look for things that can be enabled, that, technology or, some trend enables.
Bill, this is such an incredible perspective because frankly, it's very different than a lot of other perspectives that entrepreneurs are hearing. A lot of us who are joining us live now, they're saying this is really the first time I've even heard something like this, because you're like almost taught in startup school, solve the closest problem that and you're like, okay, that's a path, that's an eligible path, but maybe it's restrictive of the opportunities that we can go to. So when you're starting out as an investor, you're getting to the other side of the table. What was it like back in the day? You didn't necessarily have the skill set of I'm a trained investor. You knew from the other side. I know how to build. I know how to build teams and build products. How did you make that transition? And what were some of the things that maybe were either harder to learn or that you took right away?
Yeah. So it was interesting. A few things that we discovered when we became VCs was we were just doing things entrepreneurially, not the way Sand Hill Road was doing it, and so it was, people would tell us, what do you guys? So we were the first VC to say, we don't want paper. We don't want you to ship a business plan to us. Here's a website. Here's a link. Send us your idea via the internet. So, nobody had done that before. So, and then we created this community of investors and said, this is long before, any of these other platforms came along. And we said, to the 6,000 investors that we had on our website, we said, hey, one, anybody see any brilliant entrepreneurs that you want to share with the rest of the gang? Bring them on in. And two, what do you think of these brilliant entrepreneurs? Anybody interested in investing and taking the lead? So it was it was a transformation in venture capital, which Sand Hill Road was like, what are you guys doing? Are you kidding? You can't do that. So that was kind of interesting. But so then so now I'm a VC, right? I'm a VC. And so we were funded by Sequoia and Draper Fisher and Highland and Mayfield and Silicon Valley Bank funded Garage we were supposed to be the farm team for Sand Hill Road. That was kind of the idea, right? So that was the clever idea. We were going to be the farm team for Sand Hill Road. So now I'm a VC. And so I go to my new VC buddies, who were really hard to talk to when I was an entrepreneur. And now they're my buddies, right? So, I go to the cafe at 3000 Sand Hill and having lunch with my new VC buddies. And I say, okay, guys, I know this VC thing is hard. So my assumption had been, when I was an entrepreneur, I thought VCs were these incredible analytic brains, right? That they could ingest all of this information about new technologies and startup companies and competition and financial plans. They could ingest all of this and they ran it through an algorithm, right? and then calculated an internal rate of return and made these brilliant investment decisions. That's what I thought VC was all about, right? I mean, so I'm telling them, okay, now I'm on the inside, guys. Tell me, what's the algorithm, right? Spill the beans, guys. And, and they'd look at me cross-eyed and say, well, we invest in teams. Yeah, invest in teams. Okay, I get that. But, what are the analytics? How do you assess a team? Do you do psychometric analysis of each of the teams? Yeah, well, it's kind of pattern recognition, After 5 or 10 years, you'll get the hang of it. Like, oh my God, are you freaking kidding me? Really? That's what you're doing? So we said, there's got to be a better way. So we went back and we thought, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to quantify. We're going to quantify, entrepreneurs. And so we built this, this model that said, there are the 38 factors that are critical to the success of a startup company, based on all of our experience and knowledge and right. So 38 factors. And, we would sit down and we would, take these companies and we would score them. And we'd come into the investment committee meeting and, share the scores. They were pretty much aligned. But, the differences were like, among the most interesting companies, they were tiny. And so we'd sort of say, okay, now why do we have a difference? Well, it turned out basically what was happening was each of us was gaming the system. So, Guy would fall in love with a team, and so he'd give him a 10, and I'd say, what do you mean? That's a 5 team. Why do you give him a 10? And I'd fall in love with the technology, and I'd give the technology a 10, and Guy would say, yeah, anybody could do that. Give me a weekend. And we realized, okay, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. You cannot quantify the process of selecting entrepreneurs. So how the hell does it work? And so we were kind of poking around, trying to figure out, how are these VCs making these decisions? And I had this epiphany, which was that VCs do not invest with their brains. They invest with their hearts. And, and that's what we were doing too. I mean, it's the secret. Okay, to your audience out here, here's the secret. You ready? Okay. Don't tell anyone else I told you this, okay? But here's the secret. The secret to getting venture capital is, what you say, you got to say something that makes sense to the brain. But to differentiate yourself from everybody else out there, you got to get them to fall in love. You got to get them to fall in love with you. So why do VCs fall in love? Now, is there a song there? Why do VCs fall in love? But the and a lot of people think, VCs fall in love with, their greed. It's greed. They're motivated by greed, right? It's not true. It's not true because, arguably, yes, fundamentally, we have an obligation to make money. That's our obligation. We're using other people's money. And so we have an obligation to make money. But, greed is not really core to the game, particularly in early stage. What VCs fall in love with is, so sometimes we fall in love with a team. We'll see this team, they come into our office and they're pitching us and they're working well together and they're bouncing off each other and they're sharing insights and they're, these guys have it together. I love this team. But sometimes, we'll get the nerdiest, whatever people come into our office in pocket protectors and they, but they can make bits do something that bits have never done before, right? I mean, they've got some extraordinary technology that you go, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And sometimes we fall in love with with a vision. And this is, one of my favorite stories of a company that we funded. It was an insane investment. I mean, there's no way you could have done a scorecard and said, this is a good investment. but we fell in love with this company that came into our office. It was 4 graduate students out of Stanford who had met in a course called Designing for Extreme Affordability, and they had designed a solar rechargeable lantern that was more effective and less expensive than kerosene for the 2 billion people on Earth who don't have access to reliable grid power. So you've got 2 billion people whose lighting system or backup lighting system is kerosene lanterns, who are smoking the heck out of their rooms or catching fire or, carbon, all the bad things you can imagine, like kerosene. And they come in and they tell us the story. They just very cleverly, they took the last generation white LED, which is a quarter of the cost of the current generation LED. And they put together, one of the guys had worked at Apple and knew the algorithm for charging batteries, right? So, the big problem with rechargeable batteries historically is you overcharge them or you over deplete them. And that destroys the battery. And so, he designed a 25-cent integrated circuit that would implement this algorithm in this lantern, that Apple has a chip doing it. But in any case, so they built this solar rechargeable lantern that was cheaper than kerosene for these 2 billion people. And we say, wow, this is so. But then we said, the concern we had was this is one of those do good philanthropic social impact, kind of deals. And that's not really. And they came over the table at us and they said, you don't get it. If we're going to change the lives of 2 billion people, we've got to build a big, global, multinational, profitable corporation that can reach all these people. We go, whoa, we love these guys. We love these guys, right? So the name of the company was Delight Design. They are possibly the only company that we ever invested in that actually hit their original plan. I mean, my partner took them to China. We found manufacturing. They launched within 14 months, and they are now the leaders in solar rechargeable lighting in the developing world. Wow. So they have on their website, they have a counter of, over 100 million lives impacted by Delight Design. So we, good news, bad news. We had an exit 2 years ago, a very nice exit with these guys, but it was a great outcome for everyone. But it kind of broke my heart that I'm no longer a shareholder in this company. But I love the team. I love the story. It's a great story. But so the whole point of this is that you got to get the investor excited about what you're doing. And so when I say fall in love, I don't mean just, emotional, cuddling babies and that sort of thing. But what I mean is get my heart beating faster and get my pulse racing. What you want to do is you want to get the investor to say, wow, that's amazing. Really? You can do that? Wow is not an intellectual response, right? Wow is an emotional response. And what we know is human beings do what they want to do what their emotions want them to do. That's what human beings do, not what their brains tell them to do. It's what their hearts tell them to do. That's what human beings do. So you want to get the investor to fall in love with you. You want to get the investor excited about something you can do that is more exciting, more compelling than anybody else out there. You want to get them to wow. You want to get them to say, wow, that's amazing. So that's what I learned. That's what I learned, when I became a VC. So it took me a little while, but I got there.
Unbelievable. Bill, thank you so much. The comments are popping off. Rachel, Jesse, my uncle Mark, everybody's resonating. We are human beings, right? Justin and I say with our sales team, especially all the time, businesses don't do businesses just with another business. It's a person with another person. It's the emotional side. It's not always logical. And something that you also said in the book, you talk about the reality is that it's not a meritocracy always, right? There's a ton of noise out there. You need to stand out. And if you are not so passionate, so alive and filled with energy about your mission, how the heck can you expect the venture capitalist to feel that way? So I want to ask you, Bill, when you talk about leaving folks saying, wow, what are some of the qualities that maybe beyond charisma, perhaps beyond energy, that you look for in the doc, you will?
Particularly in the pitch too, Bill. I mean, so many of our entrepreneurs are coming to us. How do you pitch? How do you sit down? You got a big meeting. All right, you got the big meeting.
Right.
So you're only getting started.
Yeah. And so, I told you one example, Delight, where we fell in love with the mission, of this team and the intersection between novel technology and this massive global mission. That was a wow, right? That they could say, and we are cheaper than kerosene. That was a wow, right? Wow. So, and another one of my favorite examples is it was at a conference, and this woman comes up to me at the conference and says, "Hey, Bill, what if I told you that we could accelerate data analytics by a factor of 100x using the same hardware?" And it was like 100x, and I blurted out the first thing that came into my brain, which was, I said to her, "I'd say you're lying to me." And she was like, so that's what I said to her. She did not miss a beat. She did not miss. It was incredible. She said, "Well, what if I told you we could prove it, as we did with Major League Baseball in a pilot we did last summer?" And she, whoa, that was probably the fastest and shortest pitch to get into our conference room ever. So that was it. That was, I grabbed a PhD out of Intel and brought him in with me into this conference room with the entrepreneur and her chief technology officer. And they went through this mind-numbing set of slides of benchmarks that they had done, comparing themselves, on Oracle, on all these different platforms across all these different analytic problems, and they had these multiples from 100x to like 240x in terms of their ability to accelerate data analytics. And it was, and then they got acquired by a Taiwanese company. Boom, slipped out from under our fingers, just like that. In any case, but the point is, she did not need more than 20 seconds to get an invitation into our conference room, into a partners meeting. So,
she got to wow. She's following the recipe of getting to wow and using not just the logical, but finding whether it's the opportunity, the product, some type of aspect. And Bill, you wrote a blog post that's now gone pretty wide about lies that VCs are telling investors. And I think you're going to get invited way back to our types of audience, because we're like, everybody's assuming you're telling secrets, you're dropping knowledge left and right. Let's unpack, as we can't even believe it at the end of our interview, some other lies that VCs are telling investors. I want to hear about valuations is something that all our entrepreneurs are telling us. They're going, Bill, here's what we think. What do you think? What are some other things that you're not going to tell? You'll tell our audience, but other VCs are not going to tell the entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm. The secrets, right. Probably to the topic of, getting to wow, the thing that most entrepreneurs do not hear from VCs that is really going on in their brains, a couple of things. First is, and I didn't appreciate this when I was an entrepreneur. When I was an entrepreneur and I was pitching my company, I thought, this is the most amazing company these guys have ever heard of, right? And I've got this technology and this market opportunity and this team. I mean, they've got to invest in this company. So here's something I didn't realize when I was an entrepreneur. And I finally realized as a VC after hearing about 1,000 or 2,000 pitches. That was in the first year. And then, now I'm whatever I'm at, 35,000 pitches or whatever the number is that I've heard. So the problem you have when you're pitching to VCs, And this actually also applies when you're pitching to customers. But the problem you have when you're pitching to VCs is as soon as you open your mouth, what happens is we start thinking, oh yeah, I've heard this before. Oh yeah, what was that team? They ran out, it was like 2 years ago, and I remember, and what was the name of the company? And so what's happening, as soon as you open your mouth, what's happening is our brains are spinning, trying to remember all of the other startup companies we've heard that sound just like you. So again, I mean, there's very, very, very few situations where I have heard, where an entrepreneur pitches me and I've never heard it before. So it's you got to be aware of that as an entrepreneur, even if you think, it is so unbelievably innovative and new. Every VC you pitch to is going to say, yeah, I think I've heard this before. And so as an entrepreneur, you've got to shut that down as fast as you can. So you've got to shut that down, depending on your circumstance, where you are, but you got to shut it down in the first 30 seconds. You've got to make sure that you have a sentence in there, something like, unlike other companies you may have heard of that are doing something similar, what we're doing is ba, 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 which is, sort of 10 times different than the last generation of you've got to make a credible statement about what it is that you are doing that is different, unique, and much more compelling than what everybody else is doing. So you got to shut that down really early on. But unfortunately, most pitch templates, they say, well, you got to talk about the competition on slide 6. So the challenge you've got is if you don't explain how you're different before you get to slide 6, we're not listening to slides 1 through 5, right? So you've got to shut these things down, preemptively at the beginning. And then the other epiphany that I realized is, this is what, is called the curse of expertise. The curse of expertise. You guys know what this is? The curse of expertise is if you're really smart about something, it's really hard to understand that other people don't understand what you're saying. So it's hard. The curse of expertise is it creates this gap between you and people who are not expert on your domain. The challenge with entrepreneurs is, you have been living and breathing your product and technology and market and all this stuff for months, and it cold and deeply. And then you go to the outside world and you start talking about it, and you assume that we all immediately get what you're talking about. And so it's not just a matter of complicated technology. It's a matter of the way entrepreneurs phrase what it is they're talking about in terms of, their value proposition or, their competitive advantage or, or their technology for that matter. But, sort of classic example, we get this all the time in Silicon Valley, which is very engineering driven. Team, comes into our office and we're talking about power electronics. Okay. Somewhat technical topic. And so we asked them, so what is your compelling value proposition? And the response was, well, we use silicon nitride. Okay. Yeah. Got it. Now, okay. Now, had I been educated as a semiconductor engineer, then I would, of course, understand that the band gap of silicon nitride versus silicon dioxide is blah, 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 right? But okay, I'm not a semiconductor engineer. So yeah, I mean, just make sure that what you think is your advantage is actually an advantage and not a feature, not a technology, right? So it's the classic, give me benefits, not features. And most entrepreneurs, they spend their time describing their product and all of its wondrous technology and elegance, rather than talking about the benefits that they offer to customers. And this, goes back to the beginning of our conversation. When I was a lad in my early days, this crusty old sales guy, he was probably like 42, right? This crusty old sales guy, explained to me in his thick Boston accent. He said, Bill, I can't do a thick Boston accent. He said, Bill, customers don't buy products. Customers don't buy products. They buy benefits. I go, whoa, that's profound, right? And so that has stuck with me, all my career, to appreciate that customers don't buy products, they buy benefits. And so whatever you're doing, the focus of your pitch has got to be your compelling value proposition. What are the benefits you deliver to your customers? Because I don't care how good the team is. I don't care how cool the technology is. If you don't have a compelling value proposition, you don't have a business. So,
mic drop. Mic drop.
Unbelievable. Everybody, next gen entrepreneurs, Bill is giving you the psychology to unlock your fundraising, your sales, whatever it is. This all applies human to human interaction. This is one that we are going to watch over and over and over again. Thank you so much, Bill. I can't believe that we are already at our time here, but Bill, where can our audience head for more about what you're working on, for everything that's coming forward in your future, for Pegasus, for Garage? Talk to us. Where can everybody find out more?
Well, first thing, okay, are you ready for this? Here's the plug. First thing, you can always go to the Amazon.com near you and order Getting to Wow. Silicon Valley Pitch Secrets for Entrepreneurs. So that's the book.
Endorsed by Next Gen.
Endorsed by Next Gen HQ. It's been super helpful for us thinking about this. So, Bill, Getting to Wow, we're all going to pick up. I know you're going to appear on a couple of podcasts soon. Anyone that particular we should be checking out?
So you should check these guys out. It's a group called VC House. VC House did a podcast with them. It's a combination. It's a group. It's investors and entrepreneurs who are part of this community. And it might be of interest to your audience as well.
Next Gen fam, you know where to find them. Bill Reichert, partner at Pegasus Tech Ventures, co-founder, managing director, Garage Technology Ventures. Thank you so much for joining us, Next Gen HQ.
And one of the best guys you'll ever meet. Keep this momentum going, Bill. Thank you.
We appreciate it, Bill.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care, everybody.
That was awesome. That was awesome. That guy, awesome. Next Gen fam, you know how much energy we bring, yo. You know how much energy we bring. Nobody. He got us. He came at us. He came at us.
Got us.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
I had so much fun. And when you break down the tape, go roll that one back. It is unbelievable. How just basic conversations can be reframed to win. And not to say you're going to lie or exaggerate. No. Just get your message across more effectively. Thank you, Bill.
Think about this. Even the way that Bill was interacting with us, we'd ask a question, but he knows don't speak to the brain, speak to the heart. So he tells it in a story. He gives it to you in a narrative. I see Kathleen. I see Jesse. Folks in the comments who are joining us. Jayreen, what up? Resonating so strongly. And it's very flip script. Very flip script on how you can really engage with your VC. That was awesome. And Natasha, I don't know if you're on here.
Natasha, Nick Jones, thank you, team. Go pick up a copy of Getting to Wow. Go pick up your copy. Hit us up on the DMs. Let us know your takeaway. Go engage. Follow us on Instagram. Shoot us a message. We are fired up and so thankful for you tuning in. This will drop on Momentum Audio. Make sure you're subscribed to be the first one to know. But Jay, anything else you got for today?
Next Gen fam, much love. Be well. Huge thank you to Bill and his team for making this possible. Another shout out to Natasha, the girl, Seattle, NYC, Brooklyn, wherever she's out here. We appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Dylan, Justin, we're here building. We know you are too. Much love. Be well. We'll catch you soon, family.